Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. If you are new around here, which most of you probably are because I took a long hiatus and now I'm finally back, but if you are new, I am your local nerd and I have been gone. Obviously none of you gave a shit about where I've been because that's not why you clicked on this video. I was recently asked a question that has got me thinking quite a bit. The question was, what movie do you think will never be remade or reimagined no matter how much time has passed? And I thought that was a fantastic question. A question that I've actually never gotten before. It scratched my little brain and I was like, what movie do I actually think will never be remade? Instantly I was like, oh, Groundhog's Day, because I love Groundhog's Day, but that has been remade or reimagined like 100 different times, like waking up over and over and over again of the exact same day happens quite a bit. So obviously not that movie. And then I was like, oh no, The Truman Show, because The Truman Show is like top 10 movies, my favorite movies of all time. Like I absolutely love The Truman Show and I hope it never gets reimagined. But then a third movie came into my head and this third movie is exactly why we're here today. And this is what I actually answered this question with. I said, unfortunately, The Shining. I know a lot of you people are probably going, what? Unfortunately, what are you talking about? The Shining is amazing. The Shining has won Oscars. It's Stanley Kubrick's best film ever. It's Jack Nicholson's best film ever. Whatever. I used to absolutely love The Shining. It's The Shining. I mean, come on. It's one of the best horror movies or suspense movies ever made. We do not need it to be remade. I mean, we're currently in the era of reruns and rewrites and sequels and prequels and all this kind of stuff. We do not need more. We need more original ideas. I completely agree. But sometimes when I'm thinking about them remaking movies and TV shows all the time, I'm like, why don't they remake the books that got bad movies? They should do that. All of these books that have gotten bad movies, like the Chaos Walking series. Oh, I love that series so freaking much. And it got the absolute worst. It's a series by Patrick Ness, by the way, if you wanted to know. And it got the worst movie ever, which makes no sense because it had like Daisy Ridley and Tom Holland and I think Nicholas Jonas. And it had like all of these really good actors in it. And the movie was absolutely horrible, especially for people that loved the Knife of Never Letting Go specifically, because that's what the movie mainly follows. So I was like, well, they should just start remaking these movies that were so bad because the books deserve more and the people that love the books deserve more than what we got. And then I started thinking of The Shining because, and I'm gonna ruffle some feathers around here, I believe that The Shining should be getting a reboot or a second chance, I guess. The Shining is obviously a classic, and I used to be, just like everybody else that's a huge fan of The Shining, I used to absolutely love The Shining, and I used to say like, oh, I'm not a fan of horror movies, but my favorite horror movie is The Shining. Jack Nicholson's amazing, whatever. But then I read the book. When I read the book, I realized that the book is probably one of my favorite books of all time. Not even like suspense books or horror books or Stephen King books. Like, it is just such a good book. I read The Shining the first time around when I was in high school, and then I listened to the audiobook version of The Shining when my husband and I were remaking our camper that we no longer live in, hence the set is different. If you didn't know, my first videos were made in a camper. I knew. I recently, just this year, bought the physical copy of the book, read it for a third time, and I absolutely love the book. Don't get me wrong, the movie is also good. I feel like if you like the movie, like you love the movie, and you're somebody that if you read a book and the movie's not exactly like the book and you get mad, don't read the book. Just stay in your little bubble about the book not existing and the movie being great. But if you are somebody that can separate the book and the movies, definitely read the book because it's so good. And the movie is not drastically different from the book. I mean, they left out some really pivotal moments that I feel like we're gonna actually talk about today. The movie obviously was a classic. I mean, Kubrick did a great job, so. But the book is just so much better. And if we are talking about rewrites and reruns and sequels and prequels and remaking things that have already been made, I think that we should get another shot at The Shining, and not a remake or reimagine of what Kubrick had actually created, but maybe something fresh and new and identical to the book. But the book is quite a lot of pages, very many pages actually, and I don't think you can fit that into one movie. Now, I don't think that they should actually do a movie. I think a miniseries or a TV series or show or just like one season of a show would be fantastic. Like, think of Haunting of Hill House. It's only one season. Blind Manor, only one season. That kind of stuff, right? So I think for this, they should definitely take another shot at that. I am going to prove to you just how they can do it, or why they should do it. Maybe I'll convince some of you. Maybe I won't convince any of you, and maybe you're like, no, it's too much of a classic, they can't redo it, and you should never have made this video. Okay, so let's actually just start with Kubrick's film, because it is pretty identical. Like, the beginning and like the main plot is pretty identical to the book, obviously. If you don't know, there's this guy named Jack Torrance, and he is interviewing to be the winter groundskeeper of a hotel, and the hotel is sort of haunted. Like every big hotel, it has its ghosts and all that stuff. Jack Torrance has a wife named Wendy and a son named Danny, and Danny has something called The Shining, and it's basically like sort of telekinesis, I guess. He can read people's feelings. Sometimes he can read people's thoughts if they're loud enough, and he gets premonitions, and these premonitions can sometimes manifest themselves into bigger things, and also he can sense the spirits of the hotel. That's the plot of the book and the movie. Biggest thing that I just missed out is that the hotel kind of comes alive and terrorizes this family so much that it gets Jack Torrance to turn evil and murder his entire family. So yeah, but it missed quite a lot. Obviously, the times couldn't do a lot of the things that happened in the book, because a lot of things were not technologically available at the time, like CGI stuff. They still missed quite a lot. I mean, they had like an entire elevator full of blood and like dumped it through an entire hallway set, so I feel like they could have done quite a bit more. Also, that blood scene, so cool, but never happens in the book. Anyway, let's just start on what they could be doing to maybe revamp this story and maybe make it better. So let's start with like the main characters. As you know, there is this kid named Danny, and Danny has these supernatural powers. He has something called the knack or the shining, right? And he doesn't know what it is because he's a 5-year-old boy, and he's kind of struggling with it. The actor that plays Danny is phenomenal in the original, so they would have to find a really, really good kid actor, which kid actors, it's like kind of a sticky situation right now and has been forever. But I don't know, I feel like there has to be some kids out there that genuinely want to act, and like I was a kid that really wanted to act, so I don't know, maybe find one of those. What the movie was not really able to show is Danny's imaginary friend, Tony. They show it like with him going like, "Hello, Mrs. Torrance," and all that kind of stuff, but they don't really show you Tony. And the book doesn't describe Tony. He's kind of like just this distant figure, and he like waves and like shows Danny stuff. But the feeling that you get when you are reading these pages and Tony shows up, and sometimes it's good, and then sometimes you're like, ooh, chills down my spine. This kind of thing is freaky, right? And Stephen King does a really amazing job at showing Tony with his writing. Like, you can actually imagine. So I think a TV show could really show us, so I think a TV show would do a really good job at giving us Tony and showing us Tony and showing us more of what Danny sees when he sees Tony and when he like falls into these premonitions and all that kind of stuff. But I also think that the movie did not really do a good job at showing Danny in all of his different ways. Because Danny is a 5-year-old kid, so he has 5-year-old kid stuff, like he plays in the snow all the time, and he goes to the park, and all that stuff, but there is like a deepness to him because he understands so much, and he can like sense so much that he is very more mature for his age, I guess. Like, he desperately wants to learn how to read because Tony shows him something. In the movie, you just get like the red rum, and it's like, red rum, red rum, red rum, right? Like all of that crazy stuff. But in the book, it's like he gets this sign and it's in the mirror, so it's obviously backwards. and he does not know what the sign is saying because he's looking in the mirror, and so it's backwards and it's saying red rum instead of murder. Pretty much the entire book, he is desperately trying to learn how to read so he can understand what red rum is and what red rum represents. Also in the book, it shows him and his parents' dynamic really well, and how he like can sense when his mom is happy and when his dad loses things and all that kind of stuff. Moving on to Wendy. Shelley Duvall did an absolute amazing job in The Shining. And I know some of the book lovers were kind of disappointed when they saw Wendy because she doesn't look as she is described in the book. But I think when you focus on her performance and her performance alone, it is amazing. And she did a fantastic job. And I know Stanley Kubrick was very abusive towards her. So sorry, Shelley Duvall, you are amazing. If there was a TV show, then it could make her character even better. In the book, it does a lot of flashbacks to when her and Jack were first married, and like her relationship with her mother and her relationship with her father, and how she never wanted to be like a nag or a bad wife because she saw how bad her mom was and all this kind of stuff. It just gives more layers to the character instead of just like screaming and crying and being like, Jack, what are you doing? Right? Like, it gives us more. And I think a TV show could definitely give us more. One of the best things that I've actually come to understand from the book is that she is probably the most valuable character, because she can see when Jack is slipping, and she has kind of this like intuition with Jack, but then she also has this really strong intuition, like mother's intuition, obviously, with Danny. She is kind of the most rational character because Danny is too young to really understand what's going on, and Jack is obviously slipping into the hotel's grip. She kind of comes out on top as being the most rational and the one that understands what's happening the most throughout the entirety of the story. There's this one scene in the book that I particularly love and would have wished or like loved to have seen in some sort of adaptation or like in the movie or whatever. There is a part of the book where she and Danny are driving to Sidewinder, the town, before the snow comes. It shows how she just basically like cuts the crap, because everybody's been telling her that like Danny's just in a phase and like this kid has a wild imagination and that he doesn't have anything special with him. Through seeing all the signs with Danny in the hotel, she just is like, no, you know what? I'm gonna believe my son and I'm going to believe him. So she just kind of flat out asks him like, hey, what is this thing? What can you do? And Danny's like, well, Dick Halloran, the hotel chef guy, told me that it was The Shining, and I can like read minds. I can know when you and Daddy are fighting, all that kind of stuff. And she completely believes him, and she doesn't belittle him, and she sees him as telling the truth. And this just adds so much more fuel to the fire and more suspense, because now you have like an adult character that is believing and is seeing the truth. I don't know, it's just so good. Moving on to Jack, his scenes are by far the most important in the movie, and it shows him slipping into madness, like obviously the most, and he like goes and kills his family and all that kind of stuff. But if they turned the book into a show, it would just show so much more about how he loves his family. Yes, in the beginning of the book, he kind of shows off as like this pompous, like know-it-all, I'm better than everybody, everybody's out to get me kind of guy. But when you keep reading, he is completely redeemed. And in the end, he is kind of the hero of the story. Like, yeah, he tries to murder his family and gets really close to murdering Wendy, but ultimately, he saves the day. And he is the hero of the story. And if you've read the sequel, when I read Dr. Sleep for the first time after reading The Shining, I was bawling my eyes out. Like, I was crying because of the end scene. I won't spoil it just in case you haven't read it, but please just go read it. It's so good. But none of the characters will really matter if the plot doesn't change, and if the plot doesn't show us exactly what's going on in the book, because the plot is like the second to most important after the characters. Let me just quickly explain what happens. If you want to read the book, I will be spoiling this section, so I'll like cut it up and you can just skip it, or I don't know, tune off this video, I don't know. In the book, pretty much starts off the exact same as the movie does, with Jack, Wendy, Danny going to the hotel, Danny meeting Halloran, they speak, he understands The Shining, and then they are plunged into their seclusion and Jack's responsibility and all of this kind of stuff. Pretty soon after getting to the hotel, Jack finds a wasp's nest. He bug bombs it, he sees that all the wasps are gone, and this is like the very first time that we see that the hotel is kind of playing tricks on what's going in, like, not playing tricks, but like, this is the first time that the hotel is really haunting this family. So he bug bombs the wasp's nest and then he like dumps it all out. There is no wasps. He gives it to Danny. They go to bed, wake up because Danny is screaming because there is a swarm of wasps in his room because the wasp nest actually does have wasps in it. And in the book, it shows just how much like the hotel is doing this. Like, it obviously the whole family thinks that it's because it was a faulty bomb or whatever, bug bomb, but it is definitely the hotel. That is the first big thing that happens. The next huge thing that I would say, other than like Danny seeing red rum for the first time and hearing like the mallet swinging and all that kind of stuff, is when Jack is trimming the hedges, because in the book there is no maze. It is these animal hedges in a topiary type thing. He's trimming the hedges and the animals start to move, and the animals move and they crouch down as if they are going to kill Jack, and is probably one of the most suspenseful portions of the book. Makes Jack feel like he's going crazy and that there are things that he needs to deal with, not anything of like the haunting nature, but then later on he's like, oh my gosh, wait, the topiary is like, the hotel is haunted, my son's not crazy, I'm not crazy, we need to get out of here. Ultimately though, the hotel obviously still gets its grip on Jack. I would say the topiary scene and like the animal attacking Jack is the biggest thing that the movie missed out on. And I know that in the technology of the time, they probably couldn't have gotten a bunch of hedge animals moving and attacking Jack. But I digress. I mean, a TV show definitely could have shown something like that now. So there's also a lot of different flashbacks of the family that we did not get. We get Jack's past in particular, that is probably the strongest. A show could really paint a better picture of all of this. In the movie, I feel like they have briefly mentioned certain things, or like they alluded to the fact that Jack had lost his job and that's why he has to work at the hotel. But in the book, it's just so much more. So if they did a mini series, it could just be so much more. Jack, he was a drunk before he got to the hotel. He had broke Danny's arm and he had shown up to work drunk all the time, and he had even with his buddy late one night drank and drove, hit a bicycle, and he thought that he had killed somebody. Luckily, or maybe, I don't know, it was like a grace from God that he did not kill somebody. That is what got him to stop drinking. Then he attacked one of his students because his students was slashing his tires, so he like went on a full rampage, saw red, beat this kid like half to death. That's why he had ended up having to move to the Overlook Hotel. So obviously that could have shown so much more, and it could just give so much more layers. Like, I think that's my problem with what the movie ended up becoming, is it doesn't really show the layers of the family. It's just straight horror, or like straight suspense from pretty much beginning to end. Even at the end, it's like such a sad ending. Like, yes, Danny and Wendy get out and they're like free. Jack has like his little freezing scene in the forest. Pretty iconic. It doesn't show anything that like the book really represents, because I think the book is just so much more, you know? Like, obviously the book is better than the movie. Like, every single book is better than their adaptations and all that kind of stuff. What the movie just really lacks is the true family dynamic and like other stuff that is not horror or suspense related. And I think that actually adds fuel to making it even more scary and like fearful and stuff, because overall this family is like a pretty normal family. Like, it has some dysfunction and like some weird stuff going on, but it just, you could tell that this family genuinely loves each other, and like they're trying to make it work so much, and they're trying to like figure things out, and like they're just a young married couple with a young kid and like all of this stuff. And the movie just doesn't show that. Like, at no point in the movie do you think like, oh, this is a happy, loving family. And at no point do you think like Jack actually loves his family and he actually loves his wife. Like, there is no point in the movie that I felt like that. Yeah, like at all. I'm like trying to think. Like, Wendy and Danny, You can definitely tell that Wendy loves Danny, but you can't really even see that like Jack loves Danny. Like he just seems so out there. You know, I feel like the movie also just focuses on the hotel. Like it doesn't really focus on the hotel and like the murdering aspect. It doesn't focus on the other stuff, the heartbreaking stuff. And I think if they did a rewrite or a TV show or something, it could show that Wendy believes in her son above all else. It could show that Jack also believes, though he tries to be more rational, he desperately loves his son and he loves his family, and he does want to get out. When he is in his like rational mind, he wants to get out and he wants to save his family. And that's why it's just so heartbreaking when the hotel eventually gets to Jack, because Jack loves his wife, he loves his son, and in the strongest moments of the book, it's actually when they are their happiest, right? And they have like really cute scenes of Jack and Wendy being like flirtatious and cute, and them like showing that they actually love each other, and like there's little flirty moments here and there that are just actually so adorable, and I'm like, oh. He loves his wife, he loves his kid. It's just so sad that he ends up becoming like a lunatic and that the hotel gets its grip on him. Also, spoiler alert, Jack becomes the hero in the end. And he ends up being able to break out of his trance, and he is able to save his wife and his son, and he tells Danny to run. If you don't know, that the actual ending is Jack swinging a rock mallet, which is like croquet but more old world rock. So he's swinging this mallet around, and throughout the entirety of the book, Danny hears this mallet hitting against the wall, and then finally it comes to be the truth, right? In the very end, Jack is about to swing it down onto Danny's head, and he's about to kill Danny, and then he snaps out. He remembers how much he loves his family and how much he does not want to murder his family, and that the hotel is the evil entity doing this to him, and that he is not the evil entity, right? And so then he stops and he tells Danny to run, and he saves the day, and then he starts bashing his own head in with the mallet. He starts to try to kill himself because he realizes that the hotel and all of the evil spirits in the hotel have used him as a vessel to do their evil and like try to get Danny specifically, right? Because Danny has the best shining and all of that stuff. I literally have chills. It's chills. It is just so good. Like, and then when Danny finally gets out and when Wendy is safe, Halloran actually is the one that like gets them out of the hotel because he doesn't die in the book. He's the one that gets them down and actually saves them, right? But Jack ends up blowing up the entire hotel. He like sets up the boiler to explode, and he and all of the evil stuff that is inside the hotel die. So he sacrifices himself for his family. It's just a good story, okay? That's just why I feel like they need to make a show, because the show can make all of this happen. Like, it can show the really scary stuff that happens, like the animals moving and Danny having these visions with Tony, and eventually Jack falling into the grips of the hotel, turning back into his drunk self, and like it can show them in the past, and it can show all of these different things that happen that really set it up, but it can also show the nuance and like the family love dynamic and everybody trying to make this horrible thing better, right? And then it can end with the victory of Jack saving the day, of Jack actually being somebody worth remembering, not just as like a scary thing, but as a really good character and a beautiful character. So if they were to make a show, they can just make all this happen. I think they could break it down like character by character and plot by plot, and they can show like the true suspense and the horror, because it really is a scary story and it's a scary like movie. The movie was very scary, especially if you were younger when you watched it. It's not necessarily like scary like scary, but it's definitely like very suspenseful, and they did that aspect really, really good. The other stuff is what they are missing. So I don't know, what do you think? If they were to remake this, do you think you would be happy, especially if you're one of the fans of the books? Or do you think that I'm wrong and that they should just keep the movie its own thing and the book its own thing, and we don't need another remake? And I feel like there's been so much time that has passed too, like been like over 50 years since the movie came out. Why are we not remaking that one? They remade it, and it was so good. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is actually like my petition. If they were to remake The Shining, and if they were to make The Shining how the book was, then I petition to have the director and the creator of the It Chapter 1 and 2 and Welcome to Derry and all that he needs to remake The Shining because he did such a good job with it. He obviously loves the source material. He followed it pretty much identical to what the book is like, following like the kids and stuff. And then Welcome to Derry, same thing. Like, obviously there's some liberties in there with like costuming and looks and like certain scenes, but overall, like the story and the book are pretty close to each other, or the movie and the book are pretty close to each other. He should definitely do The Shining. Or the guy that has been making, he did the Welcome to Hill House and the Bly Manor and Midnight Mass. He's remaking Carrie right now. We'll have to see about Carrie, because Carrie's been remade a million times. See, that's another thing. Carrie's been remade a million times. Is it just because Stanley Kubrick's version was just so god tier that everybody was like, no, don't touch it, don't ever change it? I mean, I don't think that that is necessarily true, because the fans of the book, like the true fans of the book, are disappointed. Stephen King himself said that he hates The Shining, or hated The Shining. I bet he's over it now. But when The Shining came out, he hated it. And he said it was the worst adaptation of a book he'd ever seen. So why not just remake The Shining? I don't know. I don't know if this made any sense. I might even have to remake this entire video. This was kind of just like a rant, honestly. I don't know. Would you have, what do you think? Do you think we should choose somebody that appreciates the source material and would be a really good director and actually remake this thing into like a mini series, or do you think it should be left on the shelf? Let me know.